All right, Baylor comes up with a huge win in Texas. Huge win. Because, again, this Baylor team's still trying to, I don't want to say tread water, but again, they're without LJ Cryer. Everyday John's done for the season. They're playing six dudes for their seventh guy is Dale Bonner from Fairmont State. He's their seventh guy. And yet they've still done a hell of a job. And again, Borzello, before we started this, we talked about culture and how you used to laugh when the word culture was thrown around because you thought it was overrated, probably with regards to Villanova. And now you've been out a little bit more. You've seen some of these cultures, Texas Tech, Villanova. I will tell you, having been to Baylor twice this year, it's real over there in Waco. It is absolutely real.
I mean, and you can just look at Grant McCaslin came from the Baylor program at North Texas a couple of years. I mean, he's totally flipped that thing, done one of the best jobs in the country this year at North Texas. But yeah, I mean, I have kind of come around on the idea of culture. I mean, like you said, I went to Villanova and Texas Tech in kind of a couple weeks span a few years ago. And it's just immediately you see, what they instill on a day-to-day basis. I mean, the one thing that stood out, and this is a little off track, but it was at Villanova. It was a practice and somebody just made a wrong. He called out a screen in a normal way. It was either like, I got him or you got him, but it wasn't what Villanova calls when they get screened. Jay Wright stopped practice and said, that's not one of our calls. And it was just like, to me, that attention to detail, one little thing in one practice, just on, okay, this is what we call, not that. And I was just like, I was kind of blown away that he just middle of practice totally stopped and just said, that's not one of our calls, and told them what it was. And it was just, since then, I've kind of very much come around on culture. But Baylor, I mean, they have 12 quad one wins now. I mean, to me, they're a pretty rock solid one seed.
Yeah.
And I think, to me, them beating Kansas was the way I look at their profile in a completely different way now. Before then, I think you could have said, their injury issues kind of contributed to some of their losses. But now I think they're getting used to playing. They're getting used to playing small. They're getting used to playing with six guys. Akinjo's getting a little more healthy. Flagler's back. So I think now we can look at them going forward and say, all right,
Cryer's still, they need Cryer.
Well, I was going to say, I don't think they can win a title playing six guys the way they are, but I do think they would be my second number one seed right now. 12 quad one wins is the most in the country by 2 games. The next best is Kansas with 10. And, there's just not a lot of negatives. And again, I mean, the injuries contributed to some of those losses. And I think those guys are starting to come around. Besides Cryer, Flagler and Akinjo seem to be back to close to 100% at least. And so I'm buying into them as a pretty rock solid one seed and maybe the best resume in the country besides Gonzaga.
I thought they looked great. They were good tonight at a tough place to play. The last game in that building at Texas, culture is.
It was a grinder too. Yeah, an early grinder.
Yeah, culture is being able to figure it out. That was one of the reasons I was really scared when Jamwachachua went down, because I thought he was a core culture piece.
Yeah.
And because of how he communicated defensively and did all those things. But Flagler's been tough. 2 out of the last 3 games, he's hit a lot of tough shots. I think it was Oklahoma State. He hit 7 threes. Tonight he hit 5 threes, and they're not always easy because I think you'll agree with this, Borzello. Last year, that ball just popped so quickly. This year, they're having to do some things differently.
I mean, they were so connected last year. I mean, those guys, both ends of the floor. I mean, it was unbelievable. There was
and they were more talented.
Yeah, I mean, significantly more talented. Yeah. Just individually, I mean, you could just put Teague, Butler, and Mitchell, one guy on each wing, and some guy at the point go ISO, and then at the other end, you can just say, guard your guy one-on-one, and they're locking him up. And the injuries to me is why, there are a lot of young guys, a lot of new guys on the team. Some of that defensive, connectivity, it takes a while to develop. And when you have so many guys getting hurt and missing games, that it just kind of extends that time frame it takes to really lock in defensively and play that Baylor type defense. And so I think it's taken a little bit more time than we thought once Big 12 play started. But I mean, beating Kansas, winning at Texas in a 2-day span, 3-day span, I think they're really starting to figure it out.
I think Scott Drew's ability to figure it out is the biggest key to this whole thing, with Jamwachachua going out and then playing Sohan at the 5 and doing some different things. And he figured, well, we're not going to have the same beast defensively, but we'll be able to spread you out offensively. And Sohan can pull guys out. Now, he wasn't great tonight, but he still has that threat to be able to make a shot, right? And I think he gives you a lot of versatility on both sides of the ball because he's very switchable too. It's just offensively, I think he can pull you out a little bit more. It's not the same lob threat, but they're well balanced offensively. Now that you're only playing 6 guys, they know what they're doing.
That's Sohan, Kendall Brown, Matt Meyer front court when they're on the floor together. That's just, I mean, there are very few teams in the country that can really match up with those 3 one-on-one. I mean, that's a really versatile inside out run the floor. I mean, Flo Thamba has been terrific, but when those 3 are on the court together, it's just, you could do so many things at both ends of the floor.
And Meyer hasn't been great. Like tonight.
Oh, he's just up and down all year.
Yeah.
He's up and down all year. But you know who, to me, the key, if Cryer doesn't come back, the key is Kendall Brown. He's got to do more offensively. To me, he's got to be more selfish. He's got it in him to be able to average 12, 14 every single game. And if he can do that, then you can deal with an off night from Meyer. But you got to have something from him consistently. To me, again, you're not going to get Sohan and Meyer are not going to combine for 5 points very often now. But again, they got culture, they got guards, they got coaching. Somebody asked me on a podcast yesterday. It's actually a great question. And you guys can think of this for the afters. Who are the 3 coaches you would start your program with today? So be thinking about that. I'll hit you and I'll tell you my answer in the afters, but it's not easy. I didn't go with, obviously some of the older guys. I went a little bit younger. Scott Drew was one of them.
Yeah.
All right. Texas Tech. They win. It wasn't pretty tonight, but they're without Kevin McCullough. They end up beating Kansas State, and we'll get to Bruce Weber, I'm sure, in the afters and his future in Manhattan. Whether he'll make it beyond this year. Do you feel any differently about Texas Tech than you have 2 weeks ago, a month ago? I really don't. I just want to see Kevin McCullough back healthy. And I feel like, I don't know if they can get to the Final Four. I think they can. I don't think they can win 6 straight. I think they can get to New Orleans and win 4 straight. T.O.?
I think they can get there because they guard so well and they're so switchable. I think the X factor, and I feel like I've said it for a week now, but the X factor is Terrence Shannon, because you have to have somebody in the tournament that can create something whenever everything breaks down. And it always seems to be teams that you're so well scouted at that point. Everybody knows what everybody's going to run. You got to have somebody that can break you down off the dribble or create something for yourself. That's the reason I've been giving the benefit of the doubt to somebody like a Wisconsin who has Johnny Davis, because he's going to be able to figure things out at the end. Why UCLA could still make a run because they have multiple guys that can hit tough shots. Thing with Texas Tech is they have a bunch of guys who can score, but they need to rely on other guys to score. And defensively, they're going to stay in it. Who's going to be that guy that can create for them at the end of the clock? Because there's going to be a lot of possessions in the NCAA tournament where you're going to get stuck. Terrence Shannon has to be that guy.
I thought he was kind of getting back, and he's had injuries all year and missed a ton of games early. I thought he was kind of getting back to last season's version when he had that 3-game stretch, and it was, I think he had 20 against TCU, he had 14 against Baylor, and since then it's just he's kind of struggling. Last 4 games he's been pretty bad. And the issue with Texas Tech, and I if I had to pick a Big 12 champion today for the Big 12
tournament,
tournament,
we're going to do it when we come back from the break. So do not tell people who you're picking.
I might not pick Texas Tech, but their defense the past 2 games has struggled, and they are kind of like T.O. said, I'm not sure they can survive a bad game from their defense. They just don't have enough consistent offense. They don't have enough guys that can go out and say, I'm going to get 25 and we're going to overcome a bad night at the defensive end of the floor. They just don't have that. And that concerns me. And their defense is elite and it's been really good. But, TCU consistently got points in the paint. And that's kind of a no-go if you're playing Texas Tech. And they weren't, they beat Kansas State today, but their defense was not very good again. Kansas State hit 10 threes. And so I just worry what happens when a team can score on them consistently. Do they have the firepower to match up with that? Like you said, can they win 6 straight against 6 straight against good opponents? I'm just not sure they have the offense to do that.
Yeah, to combat what you're saying, though, I think you're going to have a lot less bad defensive games than offensive games. Like, especially if you know your defense is
Yes.
going to be there. So that's kind of where I'm at like that. Like, defense is going to travel in the tournament. And I feel like they're just so big and physical that they're going to thrive.
That's why
in
that's why I trust them in the tournament. Yeah.
Yeah.
Their floor is
listen,
high.
Shannon had 5 points tonight. McCullough's still not on the court. We got a week left in the regular season. That scares the shit out of me. If I'm a Texas Tech fan, that scares the living shit out of me for the NCAA tourney. I'm not saying they're going to get bounced in the first round, but again, it's going to be a grinder every game if those two don't show up and McCullough doesn't get healthy quickly. All right. When we come back from the break, I will tell you, if you're a North Carolina fan, where you don't even have to sweat it out on Selection Sunday, you are in after Caleb Love's, well, I guess Jekyll and Hyde performance would probably be the best way to describe it tonight.